Hi everyone, and welcome to Props 101. So if you're just starting out your yoga practice, you're probably going to need to modify some of the shapes in order to better fit your body. And this is what this program is all about. So don't think of props as something that you need because you're not good enough or use it like a crutch. You wouldn't go running in flip-flops, right? If you're going to practice any kind of new physical movement, you're going to need the right equipment. So just like you need your good sneakers to go running, you're going to need your little variety of props to really get the best out of your practice, okay? So we have a few things. You can always just buy things off the internet. Luckily, there's a lot of cheap options, but you can also kind of DIY these things if you don't want to run out and buy a bunch of new stuff when you start your yoga program. So first we have our blocks. This is my favorite and probably most important prop. The purpose of the blocks is to bring the floor up to you. So for example, if we're in a lunge, so we're in a low lunge, my foot is up here and my hands are on the floor. So if you have an abundance in the front, this can be really hard to reach the floor from here, okay? Just as an example. So if we bring the blocks in, it's gonna give us more space. So we're not all squinched up in here. The floor is lifted and we can really open up the chest. So that's one way we use our blocks. So what if you don't have any blocks? So you want to find a couple things that are equal in shape. So I like to use the little almond milk or soy milk or whatever kind of milk you want boxes. Or you can use 2 books of similar shape for this. Just make sure that you're not putting all your weight on something like this, or else you're not going to have a low lunge. You're going to have an almond milk ocean and you're going to be bummed out. So just be wary of that when you're using your homemade props. Another great place for a block is in our triangle pose. And I'm going to use my little jar of protein powder here. I'm going to put it on the pinky toe side of my foot. So when we set up for our triangle, again, it's going to work to bring the floor up to my hand. You see that? And this is a little more sturdy, so I can put a little more weight on it, but I still probably wouldn't put my full weight on it. So just make sure that you're wary of that. So anything that can bring the floor up to you a little bit is going to be a great substitute until you can get your hands on some legit yoga blocks. All right, what's our second thing here? We have our yoga strap. So a yoga strap is basically, to me, it's like making your arms a little bit longer. And it's going to help really in our folds and a lot of places where maybe our hands can't quite reach yet, okay? So for a strap, you can use a lot of different things. I usually use a dog leash. Just be wary that your dog might get really pumped and want to go outside when you grab their leash. So just be mindful of that. So you can take your strap, you can use a tie. The tie to a bathrobe works really good. If you have a length of rope hanging around the house. This is a pretty easy one to DIY at home. So for example, I'm going to take my strap and loop it around my feet. So this way I can sit up nice and tall. So if I were to just grab my feet for a fold, my back's going to get really rounded. My knees are going to come up. So when we have our strap, we can get deeper into the pose. So this way I can fold with my flat back and my arms long, or it can just help me to reach the foot in different situations. So here I have good form. If I were to reach my foot here, I'm all scrunched up. So our strap is really going to help us get into our folds and a lot of poses where if we can't quite grab things yet, we can have that little extra length. And then we have our blanket. Now I know in all yoga classes, we all have these really pretty Mexican style blankets, and it does not have to be, this is not a requirement, it does not have to be this style of blanket. You can use any blanket, you can use a little towel. And what our blanket does is cushion our knees, it can cushion our wrists, and it can also add a little height and lift. So for example, if I put my blanket under my booty for these folds, it's going to help me sit up a little bit straighter. As you can probably tell already by watching this, I'm natural little sloucher. So if we lift the hips up a little bit, we can sit up taller, which is good for us and it's good for our spine. And again, it's good to pad up the knees or anything that needs a little extra love to make your yoga practice a little bit more luxurious. So be sure to have some kind of blankie on hand. Another big prop that we use in yoga is the bolster. So our bolster is really good for restorative poses and bringing the floor up to you and just really softening the hard edges of our practice, as I like to say. So these are about 30, 40 bucks. So it's definitely an investment, but you can also use a really dense couch cushion, or my first bolster, I took a dollar comforter from Goodwill and I folded it and then I rolled it up and then I rolled duct tape around it. I swear, I wish I still had a picture of this thing before I got my real bolster. And it definitely did the job. You know what I mean? So it's really just anything soft. For example, I'm going to use this in a child's pose. So I'm going to take my legs wide. I'm going to pull the bolster in, and it's going to give me that extra lift and that extra cushion for a really nice restorative child's pose. So it's really good to have a bolster. And again, if you don't want to invest the money, you can make one from things around the house. And then, of course, my favorite prop is the wall. So I always think that you should practice with the wall here. Number one, it helps you with your alignment. And number two, it helps you to be a little more brave. I always feel like I can challenge myself a little bit more, especially with balance, if I have a wall here, because then you don't have to be worried like you're going to fall over and crack your head open, because we certainly don't want that. And then, of course, just a chair. So I just use like my kitchen chairs. The best kind of chair is really one of those folding chairs, like just a regular steel folding chair, like you would see somebody whack somebody with if you were watching pro wrestling. They also have a special yoga chair. That's the steel chair without the back, if you ever want to get involved with one of those. But for now, any kind of a chair without arms that you can use is going to be perfect. So gather up your things around the house so you can have your props, and then we can get started. Thank you, and I'll see you in our next video.